gentlemen. Nice to see all of you.
How you doing, Don? Good to see you too. Brandy.
Marty. Bobby. James.
Once upon a time, Motown Records signed Bobby DeBarge, who would go on to become famous for his incredible talent and catchy R&B compositions. In reality, though, he had a rocky past and buried some intriguing secrets. 30 years after Bobby's death, his family has decided to come forward and confirm what everyone has suspected all along. Unbeknownst to the world, these secrets expose Bobby's anguish and hardships. Could you perhaps clarify these rumors and explain how they will impact Bobby's legacy? Come along as we show you what goes on behind the scenes of this narrative. Allow me to delve into Bobby's early life and ascent to popularity before we jump in. The birth of Robert Bobby DeBarge Jr. took place in Detroit, Michigan on March 5, 1956. Robert Bobby DeBarge Sr. was a white Army veteran, and Ederline DeBarge was a gospel singer and lyricist of African-American descent. While married to Ederline, Robert Sr. reportedly had 5 more children with another lady. The violent actions of Bobby's father caused him great suffering and pain throughout his formative years. Bobby was exposed to a chemical that would have a profound impact on his life for many years when he was 15 years old. Bobby and his family moved to Grand Rapids, Michigan, following his parents' divorce and separation in the early 1970s. It was well knowledge that Robert Sr. was an unstable and violent man. Regardless, Bobby overcame these obstacles and formed a musical collaboration with Tommy, his younger brother, because to his outstanding musical aptitude, particularly his singing. As a young man, he began performing in area bands. Now that Bobby's family has confirmed certain claims, what exactly was Bobby's career like? To discover out, continue watching. Bobby teamed up with Gregory Williams, a fellow Grand Rapids resident and a former classmate of Bobby's, in 1975. They banded together and began meeting weekly to compose music. Subsequently, this ensemble tried out for the White Heat, who were the backing band of famous producer Barry White. They dropped their debut album later that year following a successful audition. Unfortunately, Barry White fired all of the band members but for one, because of the heavy tax liabilities they were facing. Pall Mall Groove was an album Bobby, Tommy, Gregory Williams, Philip Ingram, and others made in 1976 under the moniker Hot Ice. Please Don't Let Me Go, a tune on the album that Bobby wrote, sang, and recorded, was the first single from the album. Source Records and MCA Records brought the album to North American audiences after its first release in Germany and Palador. The album Pall Mall Groove was released globally in 2005 by Burns Records. Feeling that his music career had not yet achieved its pinnacle, Bobby went to Grand Rapids, Michigan in 1976 and got even more involved with substance usage. Gregory Williams stayed in the neighborhood when White Heat broke up, looking to start a new band with musicians like MC Clark, Philip Ingram, and Tommy DeBarge. In an effort to secure a recording contract, Gregory sent a demo tape to Motown Records featuring his new band. Motown was fascinated by the trio, whom they called Switch because of their multi-instrumental abilities. After all Bobby's struggles, he managed to land a record deal with Motown. Which way will things turn out for him? What will he do when the inevitable disaster strikes? Keep watching as we reveal all the facts. Berry Gordy Jr. launched Motown in January 1959 in Detroit, Michigan. It went on to become a prominent independent record label and one of the most prosperous black-owned businesses in American history. The group is famous for popularizing a unique kind of soul music that they developed. Originally from Georgia, Gordy's family joined the massive exodus of African Americans to the north in search of employment in factories like Detroit's after the war. Gordy's parents were hard-working business people who supported their son's early musical endeavors and who inculcated in him a strong work ethic and religious beliefs. Gordy found success in the music industry after a failed stint in professional boxing and military service during the Korean War. His heart belonged to songwriting, but he did operate a jazz record store for a while. He possessed an extraordinary gift for determining which songs will be popular, even though he couldn't read music. Gordy was a renowned composer and record producer before he founded Motown. He collaborated with fellow Detroiter and former boxer Jackie Wilson and Marv Johnson on hit tunes. Until he found William "Smokey" Robinson, a high school student from Detroit who had a beautiful falsetto and a talent for penning unforgettable lyrics, Gordy stayed on the outside of the music business and made very little money, despite his accomplishments. After launching Joe Beat Publishing Company and recording Robinson's group The Miracles for New York-based End Records in 1959, Gordy introduced Motown Records, which was called after Detroit's nickname, Motor City. At the time, Motown's success was due to a number of things. To start, the big band swing that had ruled the dance floor throughout the Great Depression eventually went out of style after Wetty Wait Wait 2. Jazz had moved to new bebop styles, which were better for listening than dancing, and large musical ensembles were no longer economically viable. Rhythm and blues, which originated in inner-city neighborhoods and was popularized by bandleaders like Louis Jordan and Lionel Hampton, was mainly recorded by small independent labels. Columbia, Capitol, and Decca are some of the most prominent record labels. The pioneering new sound that would give birth to rock and roll was first only pursued by Decca. During the 1950s, an entrepreneur who was young and had a good ear for this music might launch an independent label that catered to young people and African Americans living in urban areas. Peacock Records, started in Houston, Texas by Don Roby, and VJ Records, established in Chicago, Illinois by Vivian Carter Bracken, James Bracken, and Calvin Carter, were two other black-owned independent record labels that specialized in rhythm and blues and rock and roll by the late 1950s. Therefore, as an entrepreneur in the black music industry, Gordy was not totally groundbreaking. Harry Belafonte became the first African-American to produce a Hollywood picture, Odds Against Tomorrow, under his own business in 1959, the same year in which Gordy launched Motown. For African Americans with aspirations, the era after the 1954 Brown v. Board of Education of Topeka School integration decision and the emergence of civil rights action was a moment of great promise and possibility. Furthermore, during Wantu, black radio became an influential player in the music industry's marketing, providing black listeners with significant clout and allowing black record labels to reach out to this expanding demographic. Along with his plea that Bobby stop using drugs, Gregory extended an invitation for Bobby to join Switch. Seeing the chance, Bobby took the offer and started working for Switch. Switch, comprised of Bobby and his younger brother Tommy DeBarge, were signed to Motown in 1977. The band's debut album was released in 1978, only a year subsequent to the signing. Among the tracks featured on the album was There'll Never Be, penned by Bobby and produced by none other than Jermaine Jackson. I Want to Be Closer, a notable ballad with Bobby and Philip Ingram sharing lead vocal duties, was included on the record, which went gold thanks to Bobby's participation. The group's subsequent gold-certified album Switch II was once again produced by Jermaine Jackson. Popular Bobby piece I Call Your Name was featured on this album. Thanks in large part to Bobby's phenomenal multi-octave vocal range, Switch gained renown for their outstanding performance and recording abilities. This Is My Dream, the group's third album, was out in 1980 and was produced by three important members, Greg Williams, Bobby DeBarge, and Judd Sims. With Switch and Switch 2 Inches as predecessors, this album also went gold. Love Over and Over Again, a popular single from the album, was featured on it. Although Bobby had a remarkable experience in Motown, is he ready for the catastrophe that lies ahead? Be sure to tune in to find out. However, before we go any farther, let's examine Motown's impact briefly. Motown became an even more powerful influence in American popular music throughout the 1960s, surpassing even the Beatles. The most famous property in Detroit, 2648 West Grand Boulevard, was formerly home to a remarkable music education program in the public schools of Detroit in the 1950s, and Gordy assembled a group of gifted locals who had all benefited from it. Motown was comprised of a number of accomplished solo performers, such as Mary Wells, Stevie Wonder, who became renowned as a youngster and an adult, Marvin Gaye, and the recording studio and administrative headquarters, which was located in this two-story mansion that was infamously called Hitsville. Motown included a number of youthful vocal groups, including the Miracles, Martha and the Vandellas, the Temptations, and the Marvelettes, in addition to the first Motown record to sell 1 million copies, Shop Around in 1960. Not to mention that Junior Walker and the Also Stars, the Contours, and the Four Tops were also successful older groups. Even though many Motown artists were highly acclaimed, no group from the label in the 60s could match the Supremes' level of success. This was true even though Motown did produce hits by acts like Gladys Knight and the Pips and the Isley Brothers, who were not initially developed by the label. This girl group topped the charts with #1 hits like Where Did Our Love Go, Baby Love, Come See About Me, all in 1964, Stop, In the Name of Love, Back in My Arms Again, I Hear a Symphony, all in 1965, and You Can't Hurry Love in 1966. The group's glamorous lead singer Diana Ross went on to enjoy a remarkable solo career as a singer and a moderately successful career as an actress. Motown's success extended beyond its artists, making its songwriters and producers well-known names. Brian Holland, Lamont Dozier, and Eddie Holland, who were responsible for many of the Supremes' mid-1960s hits, became almost as famous as the Supremes themselves. Their dispute with Gordy over financial matters, which led to a contentious lawsuit and their exit from Motown, was significant industry news. Smokey Robinson, Sylvia Moy, Norman Whitfield, Mickey Stevenson, Ivy Jo Hunter, and Gordy himself were also key songwriters at the label, with many serving as producers as well. Some were specifically assigned by Gordy to particular acts. They were instrumental in creating the Motown sound, a polished branch of soul music blending rhythm and blues, gospel, and pop influences to appeal to a broad audience, including white teenagers. Motown's records were mixed to sound great on car radios and featured a driving backbeat perfect for dancing, earning it the title Sound of Young America. Although Motown produced an impressive number of hits, it was actually a small company, but it operated with unparalleled efficiency. Gordy took pride in the quality production skills he learned during a brief stint on an auto plant assembly line. He held rigorous quality control meetings, where only records that passed the harsh scrutiny of his hand-picked brain trust were released. Due to Gordy's strict standards, Motown had the highest hit ratio for released singles of any record company in history at the height of its popularity in the mid to late 1960s. These extraordinary measures were necessary for a small company like Motown to compete against larger players in the popular music industry. Motown's artist development was thorough. Young women from public housing projects like the Supremes received lessons in social etiquette, and chaperones accompanied the tour bus caravans that took Motown across the United States during its early years. Motown reached its peak success from 1965 to 1968, dominating the Billboard charts during this period. Although the label didn't have the same influence in the 1970s as it did in the 60s due to the loss of several major artists, it remained a powerful entity, with acts like the Jackson 5, the Commodores, Stevie Wonder, and Diana Ross. The label's most iconic film, Lady Sings the Blues in 1972, starred Ross and was a loose portrayal of jazz legend Billie Holiday's life. In 1988, he sold Motown to MCA, which later sold the label to Polygram. In 1998, Motown became part of Universal Music Group when UMG acquired Polygram. Despite these changes, Motown continued to be a powerful influence in popular music, maintaining a vital and enduring presence. The iconic Motown sound has remained unique, with no one successfully replicating its classic style. With all these achievements, Motown was the dream label for any artists. Yet Bobby DeBarge decided to leave. Why did he? Keep watching to know more. Bobby fell back into using the substance he first tried at 15, but this time his addiction worsened. He was now using cocaine. After several years of sobriety and efforts to clean up, this relapse caused serious tension between him and his bandmates. When Switch released their fifth album, Switch 5, in 1981, the situation became even more strained. Motown Records offered Bobby a solo contract, which he accepted, finalizing the deal in 1983. By that time, Bobby was already a well-established figure in the music industry. He also took charge of overseeing his siblings' albums with DeBarge. For DeBarge's debut album, Bobby co-wrote the track Queen of My Heart with his younger brother DeBarge, and added falsetto ad-libs toward the end of the recording. Bobby later featured DeBarge, and Bunny DeBarge, the eldest sister of Bobby, decided to leave the DeBarge group in 1987 to pursue solo careers. DeBarge had a successful solo career, showcasing talent similar to Bobby's. Bobby, on the other hand, struggled to establish himself as a solo artist and decided to reunite with his siblings to form a revamped DeBarge. They released an album titled Bad Boys, where Bobby and James DeBarge shared lead vocal duties. It appeared as though Bobby had finally found a promising path, but his life was about to take a dramatic and troubling turn. Bobby forged an unbreakable bond with but would their bond lead to his tragic circumstances? If so, what are those circumstances? Patrick DeBarge, an American singer, songwriter, and musician, was born on June 4, 1961. He began imitating his older brother Bobby's vocal style as a child and spent years in private music study with Ricky Callier. DeBarge began to express a desire to be a performer in 1975. He became a father for the first time at 16 years old and had 11 more children. In 1977, DeBarge dropped out of high school and began performing in clubs and venues across Michigan with his older brothers. In 1979, Bernd Lichter struck a deal with Source Records MCA to release the Pall Mall Groove Hot Ice album as Smash for the USA-Canada market. His older sister, Bunny, also joined her brothers in California. In 1980, due to the success of their brothers Bobby and Tommy DeBarge with the hit group Switch, had the opportunity to perform live at the piano and sing before Motown CEO Berry Gordy, who immediately signed the group, then known as the DeBarges, to the label. Signed a contract with Warner Brothers after his contact with Motown was terminated in 1990. In 2010, after a 16-year hiatus, he made a comeback with the aptly titled Second Chance, following a series of return performances and appearances, including a well-received show at the 2010 BT Awards. The album produced two singles, Second Chance and the duet Lay With You with Faith Evans, and earned him 3 Grammy Award nominations: Best Male R&B Vocal Performance, Best R&B Song, and Best R&B Album. Remains the only member of the DeBarges to receive Grammy nominations both as a solo artist and within the family group. From a brotherly love to personal turmoil, what hidden battles defined Bobby's final years? Let's find out. Bobby once pursued LaToya Jackson, the 5th child of the Jackson family. In the Switch ballad You and I, Bobby references LaToya's song Nighttime Lover, having written You and I partly in response to her music. Unfortunately, his feelings for LaToya waned, leading to their separation. Interestingly, Bobby's brother James DeBarge also had a brief relationship with another Jackson sibling, Janet Jackson. Their marriage was annulled less than a year later. After splitting from LaToya, Bobby married Terry on December 10, 1990. The couple had 2 children together, Christian and Bobby II. Rumors circulated about Bobby being bisexual, with some reports claiming he contracted from sexual relationships with men. However, other sources suggest he acquired through intravenous substance use. On an episode of Unsung aired July 31, 2017, Bunny DeBarge and former Switch bandmate Gregory Williams discussed Bobby's sexuality. Bunny DeBarge posted on Facebook asserting that her brother Bobby was bisexual but emphasizing that he was not weak. She claimed that public portrayals of him were inaccurate and unfair. Despite these discussions, Bobby never publicly confirmed his bisexuality. Before joining the DeBarge family group, Bobby was involved with Hot Ice and Switch. The DeBarge family group, formed in 1979 with Elle, Bunny, Randy, and Mark DeBarge, saw Bobby join in 1987, with Chico DeBarge joining in 1988. Bobby was widely regarded as the most talented member of the DeBarge family. Bobby DeBarge was renowned for his singing, songwriting, and production skills. Berry Gordy, the founder of Motown Records, once called Bobby the most talented artist I have ever signed. Producer Bern Lyer also praised Bobby, nothing that he had never heard anyone with such a unique and effortless sound, describing him as being in a league of his own. Despite his remarkable talent, Bobby was a troubled soul, plagued by continuous tragedies. These misfortunes might have been rooted in the childhood trauma that haunted him throughout his life. So, how did Bobby's troubled life affect him and his career? Keep watching to find out. When Bobby entered the world of substance abuse in the late 1970s, he struggled to escape its grasp. Bobby attributed his deep descent into substance use to the abuse he suffered from his father, Robert DeBarge Sr., during his childhood. His brother, Chico DeBarge, later supported these claims about their father's actions. Some reports suggest that fame's influences and temptations contributed to Bobby's substance problems, but Bobby began using illegal substances at age 15, well before his career had reached its peak. Thus, it is unlikely that his substance abuse was primarily caused by the pressures of fame. Bobby was the first in his family to fall into the devastating world of substance abuse, a habit he couldn't escape, which ultimately became a destructive force he couldn't control. According to a report by a media outlet Vibe, Bobby began using substances as a teenager while he was with Switch, where he was one of the lead singers alongside Philip Ingram. Switch was a versatile group, with members who could sing and play multiple instruments. Bobby contributed as the lead vocalist and also played the keyboard and drums. When Bobby later joined his siblings in the DeBarge family group, his growing addiction brought hardship to his family. Despite their success with hits like Rhythm of the Night in 1985, the darkness surrounding them grew too overwhelming. In 1988, Bobby and his brother Chico DeBarge, along with 4 others, were arrested for substance trafficking. Bobby's shift from user to supplier led to their imprisonment. Bobby, Chico, and their accomplices were tried in Grand Rapids, Michigan, with Bobby receiving a 5-year sentence and Chico 6 years. This legal trouble led to the disbandment of the DeBarge Group. In 1989, UPI reported that Bobby and Chico DeBarge were attempting to smuggle illegal substances into Michigan. They planned to transport over 2.5 pounds of the substance from Los Angeles, but were intercepted during a passenger inspection at Detroit Metropolitan Airport. Chico and an accomplice were caught with substance packages. According to Lovely T.I., while serving his 5-year prison sentence, Bobby received the devastating news that he had contracted. Through Bobby's darkest battles came a silent illness. How did it rewrite his life? Keep watching to find out. Gregory Williams, a former classmate and bandmate in Switch, described Bobby DeBarge as sensitive and withdrawn, suffering from mistreatment and using substances as an escape. Prior to his death, Bobby released an album titled It's Not Over. Upon realizing his situation, his family decided to place him in a hospice in Grand Rapids. Bobby's health deteriorated, and while it was reported that he contracted a severe illness while imprisoned in Wisconsin, credible sources indicate that it was due to his intravenous substance use. At that time, there were no effective treatments available. Bobby's health declined, and his family struggled to cope. Bobby's final days were characterized by health troubles. Bobby DeBarge Jr. passed away on August 16, 1995, at the age of 39, from complications related to AIDS. His death was caused by his long-term substance use, according to his obituary on Find a Grave. His body was laid to rest in Grand Rapids, Michigan, at the Garfield Park Cemetery. Following his passing, his siblings spoke about him and how much he had impacted their careers. Elle DeBarge said, "Bobby was the real star. He taught me everything I know about music. He was a musical genius. Without Bobby, there wouldn't be DeBarge. He was the heart and soul of our music." Bunny DeBarge reflected on Bobby's struggles, stating, "We all had our struggles, but Bobby's were the hardest. His addiction took a toll on him and on all of us." James DeBarge commented on Bobby's charisma, saying, "Bobby had this incredible presence. When he walked into a room, you felt it. On stage, he was mesmerizing." Bobby DeBarge III, the son of Bobby DeBarge Jr., grew up to become a musician like his father. Together with his cousins Christina DeBarge, the daughter of James DeBarge, Andrew DeBarge, the son of Tommy DeBarge, and Eldra DeBarge Jr., the son of El DeBarge, they are now the new generation of the DeBarge musical family. So what hidden truths were revealed after Bobby's death? And do these secrets affect the way he's remembered? Stay tuned as we unveil these details. After Bobby DeBarge's death, his family confirmed distressing rumors about both him and his relatives that deeply saddened many. It became clear that Bobby wasn't the only one in his family who struggled with substance misuse. He was the first to fall into this trap, but soon his siblings Chico, Bunny, Tommy, and James DeBarge also succumbed to the same issues. The entire family seemed to be cursed with this problem. Their mother, Ederline DeBarge, spoke about her son El DeBarge, noting how substance abuse had devastatingly affected him. In an interview with the Atlanta Daily World, she revealed that El couldn't handle the deceit and exploitation in the music industry, feeling betrayed as Motown had taken all his publishing rights and continued to profit from his work. Chico DeBarge revealed that their father had significantly damaged Bobby and his siblings' innocence, causing deep pain and bitterness in Bobby. Chico noted that Bobby's music reflected the anguish he felt from these experiences. When questioned about his ex-wife's allegations of abuse, Robert DeBarge Sr. responded by stating that while she was entitled to her opinion, he chose not to publicly criticize her, emphasizing that some matters are best left undisclosed for the children's sake. Despite the serious accusations, Robert DeBarge Sr. appeared incredulous and denied the allegations. At the time of his denial, he was gravely ill, using an oxygen tank to assist his breathing, and speaking with a raspy voice. However, another DeBarge sibling also made similar allegations against their father. Like Bobby, his sister Bunny DeBarge claimed that their father took advantage of her, asserting that he abused his authority over her. Bobby's brother James DeBarge also confirmed that their father exploited Bobby. Unfortunately, Bobby often directed his anger at his younger brother James, mistreating him and taking advantage of him. In an episode of Life Changers with Dr. Drew, James DeBarge revealed that Bobby had forced himself on him. Bobby and his brother Tommy DeBarge left Switch to join their siblings in their music careers. After Tommy DeBarge passed away on October 21, 2021, El DeBarge spoke about both Tommy and Bobby, highlighting their support in their music careers. El DeBarge described Tommy as a loving and gentle soul and expressed how both brothers now rest in peace with the Lord. Despite the sorrow, he cherished their legacy in music and the impact they made through their work with Switch and beyond. Bobby DeBarge was a legendary musician, but his life choices and unresolved childhood trauma contributed to his downfall and eventual death. It's tragic how seemingly small decisions can drastically shape a person's fate. For Bobby, it began with a single moment when he was 15, the first time he experimented with substances. That initial experience led to another, and soon he found himself submerged in substance use, unable to find his way out. Bobby DeBarge ultimately drowned in this destructive cycle. Many adored him for his unforgettable voice, his talent with various instruments, and his undeniable charisma. Bobby was a musical prodigy, and when he performed, it was as if he held a magical wand, with his voice casting a spell over all who listened. His family suffered the profound loss of a brother, father, and son. While the world mourned the death of a musical icon, another life claimed by the scourge of substance use that plagued the DeBarge family. This issue knows no boundaries, affecting the rich, famous, and poor alike. The only way to remain untouched by this tragedy is to steer clear of such substances. Despite his relatively short life, Bobby's music will endure for generations, and his story will continue to be shared. What do you think about this? Would there have been another way? Share your thoughts in the comment section below. Please like and subscribe if you like this video. We appreciate you taking the time to view it and hope you'll find more celebrity news videos like this one.